How expensive is a carnivore diet? I analyzed the diets of 2 carnivore what I eat in a day videos on YouTube to see if I could get some idea. So let's get to it. So before I take you to my grocery haul for the 2 days of carnivore eating, just a few disclaimers I want to cover. I am not promoting or condemning the carnivore diet in this video. I am just talking about the price of the carnivore diet based off of these 2 influencers, what I eat in a day. That leads into disclaimer number 2. This is not scientific. I do not mean in this video to prove that the carnivore diet is expensive or cheap or anything. I am just analyzing 2 what I eat in a day videos that showed up in my top search results when I typed in what I eat in a day carnivore diet. And 3, I use math in my videos. If you're one of those purists who thinks, oh, you go to the store with like a $20 bill and you're only allowed to eat the stuff that you bought with that $20 bill, and then that's the total price of everything. Even if you don't eat everything, you spent $20. That's not how I calculate the price of things on this channel. I look at the actual cost of the food that actually went into my body, not what I had to pay to buy groceries, because any food that you buy at the grocery store and don't eat in the one video doesn't magically disappear. You eat it some other day and then don't have to pay for it that other day that you eat it. So I use math. So a quick note about the carnivore diet for those of you who are just new to the idea of it, you don't know exactly what it is. There are differing levels of it, but it is a very restrictive diet in which the practitioners eat only meat, and usually eggs are also allowed. And sometimes like a little bit of dairy is allowed, like maybe some yogurt or maybe some cheese, or butter is usually allowed. And then on top of that, most of the meat that the carnivores consume tends to be beef, very beef heavy. They also eat organ meat. But yeah, they try to stay away from processed meat. Like they'll eat bacon as a treat usually, but another one of the tenets of the carnivore diet is they try to eat extremely high quality and like ethically sourced meat. That might be partly just to get the vegans off their back. You're like, oh, you hate animals, or whatever. Like, no, we like animals. We only eat ethically raised animals. I mean, I am one of those omnivores that's like, I only eat ethically raised animals. I try to anyway, when I can afford it. But anyway, to kind of simulate this idea of eating higher quality meat, and because like I said, even as an omnivore, I try to do that anyway, I got all of my ingredients for this 2-day experiment from my local butcher. And just a note on that, that is going to automatically be about twice the price of regular grocery store items. So if I had bought this same spread at a local grocery store, it probably would have been half the price. And now let's look at my first carnivore day from Dot to Trot Slow Carb Living. So what you see here is everything that I'm going to eat in 2 days, and I'm not even going to eat 100% of everything you see here. I'm going to eat less than half of that cheese. I think I'm going to eat all of what's left of that stick of butter. I'm only going to eat 10 of this dozen eggs, and I'm only going to eat like 1 of those 3 steaks and 3 of those pieces of Canadian bacon. But, you know, anyway, much smaller haul than my raw vegan 2 days. I'm gonna cut back, this is for 2 days of food, and I'm not even eating all of it. I'm gonna cut back right now to my haul for my 2 raw vegan days. So yeah, look at all of the ingredients on the table. There's like, I remember when I went shopping for this, it took like an hour, and there were, you know, like 40 ingredients or so. There was just so much stuff I had to buy because plants barely have any calories, but meat and dairy and eggs and fat have a lot of calories. So in comparison, this carnivore 2-day haul is very small, and I got almost all of this at the butcher. I could have gotten butter at the butcher, but I already had a lot of butter, so I'm just using the butter I already had. But anyway, these are local eggs, a dozen eggs. This is, I'm really excited about this. This is a goat cheese. Most people, when they think of goat cheese, they think of chèvre, which is that soft goat cheese, but this is hard. Like it acts like a cheese that you're used to, and it's melty. Anyway, my second influencer, she had cheese with one of her meals. This is a kind of controversial ingredient, like a lot of carnivore people would not eat this, but I'm eating it because I love cheese. Anyway, she got very, very fancy, expensive cheese. So this is very, very fancy, expensive goat cheese. It was like $16 a pound. Yeah, it was like $16 a pound. And I'm gonna eat not quite half of it, probably like a third of it. Butter, 3 pieces of American bacon, a hamburger patty, and then I got 6 pieces of Canadian bacon because I forgot how many pieces she ate in the video. I forgot to write it down. She only ate 3, so anyway, I'm gonna take half the price of that. And then these are some beautiful, beautiful steaks. These were the cheapest steaks at the butcher. If I'd gotten the cheapest steaks at like the supermarket, it would have been half the price or less than half the price. But these were actually a nice deal. They were $9.99 a pound. And I'm only gonna eat like one of these 1 pound steaks, but my husband's eating 2, so I got more steaks than that. So that's it, that's my haul, really short.
Did I mention this was breakfast?
Okay, we are starting off breakfast right with hamburger patty, three pieces of bacon. It's honestly gastronomically redundant to add butter when you already have a lot of bacon grease and burger fat, but that's what he did in the video, so that's what I'm doing. I also do like frying my eggs in butter. He added it at the beginning, but to be honest, that's kind of bad culinarily speaking because the milk solids can burn, so that's why I'm adding it towards the end with the eggs. Okay, so this is my, well, it's meal number 1. It's not really breakfast because there's 2 meals today. We have a hamburger patty, 2 over medium or over hard, depending on how I cook them, eggs, and 3 pieces of bacon fried in 2 tablespoons of butter and in the bacon grease and the burger grease that came out. Also, full disclosure so that I don't become a grumpy zombie, I am drinking unsweetened Fuji-cha. It's roasted green tea. I get it in bulk, it's very cheap. It's like 3 to 5 cents a glass, depending on how much you drink. This is not carnivore, but if I did not have this, I would be very, very unhappy. Now this is actually similar to a breakfast that I would have occasionally. So it doesn't feel too weird yet. The burger's weird, like I would not have a burger patty with my breakfast. It's okay, it's nice, but I want a bun. These wound up being over hard. That's okay, I actually like over hard eggs. I know, failure as a food snob. Prefer over medium, but I'll take over hard. I just don't like over easy or like really soft, runny eggs. I guess that's all I have to say. So I don't know how well you can see this, but like there's, you know, easily 3 tablespoons of grease left over. That is what I mean by the butter being like culinarily or gastronomically redundant. It's like you really don't need it. I mean, it'll add a little flavor, but it's just gonna be wasted money and fat. But whatever, that's what he did, so that's what I did.
Then I press the meat down to keep it from floating away.
So for my second meal, lunch/dinner, it's like 1:30 p.m. I've been waking up super early, so for most folks, 1:30 p.m. is sort of the equivalent of like 4:30. So, you know, it's an early dinner. Anyway, I'm having half a pound of a ribeye steak and 1 egg. And then, again, these people don't really know how to cook steak. They use butter just to fry the steak. The milk solids are gonna burn, so I'm not gonna start with butter. I'm gonna start with just the little teeny tiny bit of beef tallow that's still in the pan. I got rid of most of like the butter and bacon and beef tallow that was already in there. Because you want to get a good sear on this with really high heat, and if I use just butter like the guy did in the video, it would burn and not taste super great. I will baste it in butter though, so because that's delicious. So there you go, my meal prep is done. It took me like a minute. There's our beautiful crust. And he did an over easy egg. And the gooey yolk is gonna make like a nice sauce. Some people say steak and eggs. This is steak and egg. And usually I don't like sunny side up eggs, but he did a sunny side up egg, I think. I should have watched the video right before I made this, but anyway, it'll make a nice sauce for the steak. Otherwise, this is kind of boring. I really want some starch to go with this because there's a lot of nice fatty juices here, and fatty juices and starch are a match made in heaven. Nice medium interior. Oh, that's so good. And my husband and I do have steak once or twice a month as a special treat, you know, because it's pretty expensive. But you know, we usually will have like mashed potatoes or rice or some kind of starch on the side. At least a vegetable. Look at that marbling. I don't know how well you can see it. This is a good steak. That's why it's worth going to the butcher. Yeah, and this is delicious, but it's just kind of boring. It's very one note. This diet is like much more restrictive even than the raw vegan diet was.
I've made a huge mistake.
Ooh, so I just finished that lunch/dinner and I feel so heavy. I don't know how else to describe it other than just I feel so heavy. Like when I did raw vegan, my tummy was just so full of all that bulk, you know, all that water, all that fiber. And doing carnivore, I just feel like sluggish and heavy after I eat because I have all this grease in my stomach and there's like no starch to soak up the grease. Oh man. Anyway, I've been drinking like way extra water than I ordinarily would. Probably like try to make up for that, to try to like feel less greasy and disgusting. Hopefully I'll get my energy back in a half hour or an hour or so I can get some more work done. Okay, so it is like 4 or something. Anyway, I crashed around 3 and I just felt awful. Like everything's shut down. I felt so heavy in my stomach and I just lay down and I felt terrible. And clearly the lack of carbs was really bad for me. So I am going to have a graham cracker. This is not part of this person's what I eat in a day. I need it to stop feeling like crap. It's kind of stale because it's pretty old. I'm going over my calorie limit for the day, but I just feel so like sick. I need carbs. Whoa, it's been like 10 minutes since I had the graham cracker and I feel like a new woman. So yeah, I think I failed this. It wasn't ever really a challenge per se, it was just how much does it cost. But obviously in my case a carnivore diet would cost more than I thought initially. Because part of the expense would be graham crackers and cherries once I decided that I was too sick to go on with the carnivore diet. They're so good. Washington has the best cherries. So yeah, I failed. Well, I didn't technically fail because this wasn't a challenge to see like, could I be carnivore for a day? It was more just how much does this cost? So I didn't exactly fail, but I had to finally eat a graham cracker just to get some carbohydrates in me. I felt very sick, very lethargic, real talk. Now, again, as I said in the beginning of this video, I don't mean this as a condemnation of the carnivore diet, and I am gonna insert in here that you don't actually need carbs for energy. You can get carbs from protein or from fat or from your own body fat for energy. It's just if you are an omnivore like I am, if you are used to getting your energy from carbohydrates, it's a huge shock to your system to suddenly give yourself low carbs, or in my case, no carbs. So that's what was going on there. So I'm still probably gonna get angry carnivores in the comments at some point, but whatever. So anyway, the total cost for Dr. Trott's low carb living minus the graham cracker and the handful of cherries that I ate afterwards is $10.07 for the day. So that would mean that if a carnivore ate like this, you know, similarly to this day, every single day for an entire month, it would set back that carnivore $302.10 for the month. Now that is about 150% of what I spend monthly on myself as an omnivore. I put myself at a monthly budget of $200 a month. So it's more expensive than my diet, but not that much more expensive compared to if you saw my raw vegan diet videos. So since I already bought the ingredients and did all the math, I'm gonna go ahead and go over the numbers for the other ladies' carnivore diet day. I'm just not gonna eat it. I mean, I am gonna eat those ingredients, don't get me wrong. I'm just gonna prepare them in more delicious ways with starch and other ingredients so that I don't become a zombie with no energy and feel sick and moody and be horrible and hate myself. Anyway, the other vegan, actually, interesting Freudian slip there, because she used to be vegan, apparently. I just stumbled upon her channel, you know, looking up for videos for this particular challenge, carnivore eating, and yeah, she used to be vegan, now she's switched over to carnivore. She's East Coast creep, and her diet was very egg forward. So for breakfast, she had 4 eggs at 66 cents in 1 tablespoon of butter for 15 cents. She used Celtic sea salt, which I looked for it at my butcher. I figured, you know, they're a gourmet, bougie kind of store, so I figured they might have it, but they didn't. I probably would have to get it online. I imagine it's rather expensive, but I also imagine that most like beginners who are getting their toes wet in carnivore diet might not necessarily be like, oh, I'm gonna go out of my way and find Celtic sea salt and use it. Most people would probably just use what salt they already had, table salt or kosher salt. So I used some kosher salt and I charged myself 2 cents for that in this analysis, which brings her breakfast total to 83 cents only. And then for lunch, she had 3 eggs in 1 tablespoon of butter. So the 3 eggs is 50 cents, the 1 tablespoon of butter is 15 cents, 3 pieces of Canadian bacon at 78 cents, and the fancy cheese. So she used this, like, she said it was a fancy, expensive Gruyere cheese. I imagine, you know, whatever fancy, expensive cheese one might find. At the butcher, there was no Gruyere specifically that was fancy, but they did have this amazing looking goat cheese. I love goat cheese so much, and it was fancy and expensive, so I went ahead and got that instead. And I calculated the price. She didn't specify how much of the cheese she ate, but based off of my caloric needs and the fact that I was wanting to keep the calories consistent with the last video and with the raw vegan analyses that I did earlier in the other videos at around 16 to 1700 calories per day, I decided I would eat 400 calories of cheese, which is about 3.5 ounces of cheese. So of my block of goat cheese, 3.5 ounces of that would have cost me $3.49. So easily, the fancy cheese is by far the most expensive thing in her diet. I imagine even her fancy Gruyere cheese was probably very expensive. And that brings her lunch total to $4.92. And then for dinner, she had a pound steak, but she didn't eat all of it. And again, she didn't specify how much of it she ate. But for my caloric needs, I would have needed an additional 1/4 pound of steak for 400 calories, which would have set me back $2.50 since each one of those steaks was $9.99 or $10 a pound. So that brings East Coast Creep's daily total to $8.25, which is a little cheaper than Dot Trot's Low Carb Living, and her monthly total would have been $247.50, which is not that much more expensive than my omnivore diet. And as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, the carnivore diet, the practitioners tend to buy very high quality and therefore more expensive meat and meat products. So by its nature, it tends to be more expensive you know, compared to a mainstream American diet, people who shop at like Walmart or Safeway or Kroger or something like that. And I probably could have spent half as much as I spent on both of these days if I bought all my ingredients at like Fred Meyer. So did this prove that the carnivore diet is more expensive than an omnivore diet and cheaper than a raw vegan diet? No, as I mentioned, it is not a scientific study. I just did 2 days, but it does give you some insight and it does demonstrate what kinds of foods are more expensive. You might think meat is very expensive, and it is, but it's also very, very high in calories, so you do not need to eat as much meat to get full, whereas vegetables they're also kind of expensive. And on top of that, they are very, very low in calories. So you have to eat a lot of vegetables to fill yourself up. And that's why generally the raw vegan diet, which is almost 100% fresh fruits and vegetables, is going to be more expensive than the carnivore diet, even when I'm buying higher quality meat and even when I'm not buying all organic produce for the raw vegan diet. So what dieter am I going to eat like for a day next? I already know exactly what I'm doing because the raw vegan diet and the carnivore diet both are extreme diets, basically. They're both very, very restrictive, but they're both restrictive on opposite ends of the spectrum. Like raw vegan is like only raw fruits and vegetables, and then carnivore is like only meat and animal products, and it's sort of like the complete opposites of each other. No grains. Grains are in the middle here, where there's a lot of nice cheap food in the grain section. But anyway, I want to do pretty much the exact opposite of both of these extremes. I want to do the opposite of an extreme restrictive diet. So see if you can guess which diet I'm going to do next for a day. Thank you to my patrons for supporting this channel, and thank you to everyone all of you who are just watching these videos and giving me a reason to make them. I really enjoy doing these experiments, and I really enjoy making these videos and sharing my experiences with people all over the world. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.